Good morning, viewer. I'm in the Council of Europe's Agora building on a very warm day here in Strasbourg. With me is Jan Kleijssen, the Council of Europe's Director of Information Society and Action Against Crime. Welcome, Jan.
Good morning.
You will be representing the Council of Europe at the Internet Democracy and Accountability Summit in The Hague later this week. It's obviously an important expert meeting. So what will be the Council of Europe's key messages at this event?
The summit will bring together policymakers, tech experts, academia from all over the world to discuss a central issue to internet governance today, namely accountability. The key message of the Council of Europe will be that in order to hold governments and companies accountable, you need an informed and educated public, and that the Council of Europe is particularly well placed to ensure that this is the case.
Now, is it an event that will be attended by all of the heavy hitters that you would expect to be part of this conversation around internet accountability?
Yes, it will actually be. Participants range from, via remote participation, Vint Cerf, one of the inventors of the internet, representatives of all the major companies, government representatives, very high level, academia, as I already mentioned, NGOs will be present as well, civil society will participate, so it will be truly a multi-stakeholder event.
Now, last week the Council of Europe Secretary-General signed collaboration agreements, Jan, with the European Internet Service Providers Association and the IT security and performance firm Cloudflare. And this was to promote respect for human rights. Now, according to my information, the Council of Europe now has 16 private sector partners in this area of activity. So, Jan, what is the Council of Europe's offer to these internet companies, and why do you believe it's persuasive, especially as the European Union is also very active in matters such as cybersecurity and data protection?
First of all, we are virtually unique in giving these companies a seat at the table. I know other organizations are working with them, and in fact we have done so on an ad hoc basis until now. But when the Secretary General last year signed an exchange of letters with, at the time 14, and 2, as you just mentioned, have been added, and now 16 companies and associations, the idea was to make them partners, just as we have civil society as partners, in elaborating standard-setting instruments, in finding ways forward to ensure that law and practice match the enormous technological progress we see. Let me give you some examples. In the field of counter-terrorism, for instance, it is clear that governments can legislate, we can regulate, but that would apply to the territory of individual states and even groupings of states. When it comes, for instance, to hate speech on the internet related to terrorism, a judicial process in a major member state, a major country of the Council of Europe, brought down about 400 sites in 1 year. In the same period, a company concerned, brought down 140,000 sites of terrorist propaganda, which is just an indication how important it is that these companies work with us and that we do these things together.
Is it also important to say that the Council of Europe can play a number of important cards? For example, it can play the card of being the largest European Assembly of 47 member states, that it can act as an honest broker, that it has competence going back decades in this area. Are these also important factors?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have unique expertise. We have a unique global reach, because you mentioned 47 member states, but let's not forget we have 5 observer states, amongst them the United States, Canada and Japan. Mexico, Holy See. We also, last year, for instance, on cybercrime, which is an area, by the way, where we have the only internationally binding legal instrument, the Council of Europe was active in more than 130 countries worldwide. So that's nearly 2/3 of the world's states. Data protection, you say, we have the oldest data protection instrument, and it has now very recently, last week in Denmark at a ministerial session, been updated to be fully compatible with the European Union's standards on this, but having the additional advantage that third parties, third states, can actually join our data protection convention and develop these norms in future.
So the role of the Council of Europe then is very clear, but that also invites a lot of attention to what the Council of Europe is doing. So we know that the Council of Europe is interested in working around issues to do with the fight against hate speech and the fight against computational propaganda during elections. You've already mentioned that the Council of Europe has been talking with companies, government representatives and interest groups about these issues for a number of years. What do you make then of the view, Jan, that the time for conversation is over, and that the Council of Europe, given where we are now, Cambridge Analytica, all these various issues that are always in the headlines, that the Council of Europe should come out more strongly for regulation of the internet giants in some of their key areas of activity. What do you make of that as a viewpoint?
Well, it is clear that recent events have shown that there is a need for the internet giants, as you call them, in a way to get their act together. Serious things have happened. We've seen the CEO of Facebook coming both before the US Congress and the European Parliament, basically with the mea culpa that things should have gone better. A certain amount of regulation will be necessary, but the view that our Committee of Ministers has taken is that this regulation is best carried out as co-regulation. An important text was adopted in March this year on the responsibilities of internet intermediaries, and this stresses very much the aspect of co-regulation. And the fact that Mr. Zuckerberg came before Congress and the European Parliament to discuss with them how best to do this, I think is an example on how we can improve matters.
Some critics might hear what you say about co-regulation and think that means that the internet giants are marking their own homework. You wouldn't see it like that, of course.
No, I don't think they're marking their own homework. We wouldn't like them to judge their own procedures, but we also must be realistic. These are global players, and in order for any group of governments, the European Union, but for also the Council of Europe, is still only 47 plus 5 observers, but at best 52. So therefore we really need to ensure that what we agree is applied on a global level, because it would otherwise be far too easy to evade the controls that are set in particular geographical areas, and companies could move elsewhere.
Indeed. In a previous interview, Jan, you talked about the concerns that you have regarding artificial intelligence. Now, many people are worried about this, and you can see it's like a drumbeat that's becoming more and more powerful. People are concerned about the idea of supercomputers that can outperform human beings. Is that what you're worried about, or is there something else? Because I'm hearing in the tweets that I read, your tweets, for example, articles in The Economist, which talk about the capability of artificial intelligence, but they're also sounding alarm about the fact that it's these simple devices that can share information. That's where we need to be looking. What's your view on the whole of that?
Well, first of all, it's true that I'm concerned about some aspects of artificial intelligence, but I'd like to set the record straight. I'm basically very enthusiastic about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will help find cures for diseases we can't handle at the moment. It will certainly help us to understand more of the universe on lots of matters. It will probably make a lot of government action more effective, more efficient, ensure the taxpayers' money is better spent, make our roads safer. With the development of all the extra devices that we add to our vehicles, but it's true there are concerns. The major concerns I already outlined in an interview earlier this year is indeed about the supercomputers and that will outperform humans and where we lose control. That remains an issue. It's also true that will not happen tomorrow morning. What is happening today already are the various data collection capacities of artificial intelligence, AI devices that we have, and over which we do not have full control. A lot of devices collect automatically massive amounts of data, which are then of course marketed, and it is important that we gain control of that. Another very serious issue is the capability of AI, and a recent demonstration was given, for instance, to tweak and completely alter audio and video messages. This particular interview could be totally fake, and with some technology could make me say anything the maker wanted. Now, in the case of me, that would not be a major problem. But if it were Mr. Macron or Mr. Trump standing here, and words would be put into their mouths, or Mrs. Merkel for that matter, the matter could be very serious indeed. And these are issues we need to deal with as of now.
Indeed. And if anybody's interested in seeing exactly what you're talking about, they should just check out your Twitter timeline, where you actually post the article for The Economist that shows what can be done in this area. Finally then, of course this is a very busy time for the Council of Europe when it comes to activity in the internet. You're going to The Hague this week. Next week's the start of Eurodig in Georgia. How will this event take further the Council of Europe's objective of securing human rights online and offline?
Well, Eurodig is part of a series of processes. They're not 10,000, but a number of important processes. The Hague is one process. The IGF at global level is a process, and at regional level it's Eurodig. It brings again together all those that are involved in policy making on the internet, the governments and the companies, academia and civil society. And at Eurodig we'll have a very good opportunity to demonstrate, for instance, the advantages of our very recently modernized Convention 108, the importance of governments now to sign this instrument as quickly as possible, the modernizing work we're doing on our cybercrime convention, and the very recent recommendation I mentioned on the responsibilities of internet intermediaries, which of course should now be implemented both by governments and companies alike.